the things with the drugs and so on, did the police actually understand that?
Yes, there was one guy there who seemed to understand what we were talking about. So maybe they have also sort of heard something.
And what was his name?
Was that Lennart?
Lennart
Yes, I think
Palmqvist
so,
was the
because-
guy from UNDP.
Okay. That's the intelligence guy.
And we didn't have a name for the officer who was very much an ordinary street officer.
Yeah.
He wasn't high-ranking, but we did not have a name for him. But
Okay.
there's no reason why you didn't get it. And so it should be fairly easy for you to tell the cosmonaut about that.
But anyway, when I mentioned this new drug and that connection, that's when they sort of everyone clicked into gear and they started to taking it really seriously. So it's not like they were completely oblivious to the thing.
Okay. I think we can. We will probably have to. I mean, okay. Do you want me to tell you what happened?
Yes, I'm so curious. Because you, my friend, disappeared with I don't know who that was, coming out of a rainbow cloud from the 60s and just screaming a lot. There was a lot of anger directed towards you.
There was. And I will not make sense now.
No, that's right.
If I try to.
I'm getting used to that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Good. Then tune into this.
Turn on, drop out.
Yeah, you can do that also. But first of all, tune in, because then I tried to kind of explain the inside out experience and who he was and what kind of. I seem to have lost my notes somehow.
Well, that's good because I was getting very tired and I garbled the intelligence agencies. The agency today has the initials in English KSI, so I guess that's KSI, and they they're very much like the operations branch of the CIA. Because their origins go back into very shady and not very legal, history. All knew the original name, which was T. Contre. And it has been through several name changes along the way. And it's very shady even today. It doesn't actually have a designated government slot, right? It's not part of a department or anything like that. So it's already... It's this goddamn cold war holdover, obviously, right?
And he was obviously a very, very like a tough guy. And he detested the Swedish lagom term, and he had been somehow sent into space, but it went the other way instead. Not that space, the official space, but a completely different space, and somehow he had been stuck there forever. But he was. I'm giving you all these details about him and what it looked like. But it seems to me that he was not there because of the frog, Irino Vasquez. He was not there because of. He was there because of my suit. He wanted my suit primarily.
Correct. And also, just so you know, if you will remember that Havsmannen had felt something tracking him through the metaphysical spaces.
Yes.
Right. And just in retrospect, you will find that whenever you guys used your awareness, that's when he kept getting closer. So every time you used your awareness, he was able to get closer. So he was actually tracking your use of awareness.
And I'm also giving you all the details that he was like. He was very heavy. That was one of them. That was one of the things that I
correct
experienced
Another aspect of this is that you actually saw images of him killing cosmonauts.
Yes. Yeah, he was like a space assassin of cosmonauts, and yeah, I was really, and everything that was like all these images was in the late 60s context, right?
70s, really. But
so
yes.
Okay. Yeah, it must have been. No, it could have been 60s, but right, because there were cosmonauts in the late 60s.
Well, that's the interesting point. I was going to talk more about this in a little bit. But yes, all of a sudden, if you start thinking cosmonauts, then you are thinking, wait a minute. The timing, we tend to think of cosmonauts as 1950s and early 60s, right? It seems to be a little off. So that's an important point. So if your character blinks a little bit and says, well, wait a minute, though, a lot of the imagery looked a little more 70s than that, then you're right. So
there were probably cosmonauts in the 70s also, but there was a lot of Cold Wars and a lot of things not known to people, I guess. So, but I'm not at all interested in the politics in this.
Okay.
I think I'm more interested in, and I'm as a person, I'm more interested in I did my best to kind of to help him out of there, but he was very persistent and he didn't all want my help. He just wanted my suit. So I kind of fled from that space, and
I'm enjoying the conversation between the two heroes, but I think we can assume that they will continue to debrief with one another. And one thing that I have hinted at is that the experience of Hausmannen using his awareness in the ocean and the experience of the cosmonaut using his awareness during the combat, both of them seem accessible to this individual.
Okay.
Both of those awarenesses.
He is to be considered as a real threat to both of us, I think. At least me, or at least my dress. I could have given it to him, but I guess I would have been stuck in.
Okay, let's continue. The first thing I want to do for my part is to give a little bit of time. I know your characters might agree to do something in this conversation. Yeah. That's fine. But let me move forward with a few things that are relevant. In the course of following the issue, Carl Henrik will discover that there is a report, a very mild, very minimal report for what would otherwise, would be a fairly big news story. But the news report is very minimal. And it simply is that there have been some successful arrests regarding drugs in the region and in those neighborhoods. And that they have been concluded and that everything is fine and nobody needs to ask any more questions and no one needs to be interested. Our police have done a good job protecting the citizens of Goteborg and everybody is happy. Done. However, you will note that there are some unusual deaths in that area as well. That some people who are, let's see. Yes. Perhaps it will take a little, there have been some killings that corresponds to that period just before your encounter. And so there are lots of things for the cosmonaut to be paying attention to here. It's related as well to Sandir participating at the Facebook group about the cosmonaut, where he is very enthusiastic about the cosmonaut and Hausmannen. You have learned about these killings, and they were in the right area, and they were in at the right time, just before you two arrived. They were of two people with very Swedish names. And then also Sandir will be talking about how Hasmanen and Cosmonaut saved him. Mikabi Strom is very interested. They have an interview. And several times Sandir says, I can't say because, it's a police investigation and I'm not supposed to say some things. But he does say that he saw people killed that night and that he was fleeing in fear for his life. So do you want to do a little detective work with your awareness of the police contacts and things? Do you want to do a little bit of investigation for Karl Henrik?
I think my detective work within this, I want to find out more about that. But I'm not sure how he was involved with this. Sandir.
Right. That's right, because but you had learned this, I think, from Havsmanen, that the politics of it are complex, but the important point is that some teens were being forced into transporting this cocaine in a very dangerous fashion, and also that his statement to the police included that the handlers were Swedish, so they weren't. So that's one thing you can find. Make the detective work roll and tell me what you think. I should point out. Remember Lasse on the islands for Hasmanen? Do you remember him, Ulf?
Yes, I was just looking that up.
Right. He comes to you because there is a storage locker. This is a little bit gross, but if someone dies on the island, on the islands, then they have to have somewhere to put the body. Yep. And so there's a sort of a at the medical office there is a sort of designated storage spot, right? for this purpose. And he knows that there is actually a remember the cocaine that he had?
Yes.
He knows it is stored there.
Oh.
Right. So so that's something for you to know. Did you roll your dice?
Yeah, I rolled 9.
Oh, excellent.
It's intelligence, right?
Yes. What you will find is that the men were killed by an exotic poison which had stabbed into them. Right. So you know that she was killing her way through some people for some reason. Why it was people who were distributing the drug is a bit of a question. There were apparently other people involved who had Spanish last names, but but those names are probably considered fake, and there is no sign of them at all. So there's some sort of drama in that situation. But she was there and she was killing people, and Sandir feared, probably correctly, that he was on the list. So that was so. Ulf, did you want Johannes involved with something here?
Yes, I would like to go and take a look in that. Should we call it the icebox storage?
Yes. And so the that's actually pretty easy. Now this is sort of also a little bit gross, but the point is that it's not exactly a high security facility.
Yeah.
And so it's, I mean, like it or not, it's a pretty ordinary thing to have and for its use. And so therefore that it's not as though it is under great, it's it's behind a chain link fence, and it's on private on actually state property, but it's not very difficult to deal with.